Welcome to the HWM YouTube channel. Today we have a fantastic spec Vantage with us and a friend of the dealership, Samir. Welcome to HWM. And thank you for bringing your car along. So this is a beautiful spec Vantage that you've had for how long?
For just coming up to a year.
Okay, it's a cool looking thing. So it's lightning silver with Chancellor interior.
Yeah.
What made you spec the car this way? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, so I think the inspiration was I had obviously the SLS AMG GT product in the past, and you know, the silver arrows were basically an inspiration for it because they used to come in you know, silver on red, so that was kind of the idea behind it. And of course the famous connection to Aston Martin, obviously James Bond, having seen it in Spectre, you know, the DB10 was also spec'd in a similar color, and I know that this color debuted on the DBS as well. Yeah, which was in Casino Royale. So you know, it was always in my mind to have this particular spec for my next Aston Martin.
I have a soft spot for it because I think there's a couple of things. It's often a designer's choice, and the reason being is it shows up all the contours of the car.
Yep.
And light colours, you definitely get that. So I think that's great, but I also think light colours just keep well too. You know,
Absolutely.
They don't show the marks, they don't show the dirt in such a way, because of course, if you're doing a road trip into Europe, it stays cleaner a little longer.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you went for the traditional grille at the front?
Yes, I did.
Was that always the way it was going to be? Was it a no-brainer, or did you consider the mesh option as well?
No, I think the mesh option just makes this particular spec throw off a little bit. I think because given the classic lineage of, you know, the silver arrows and obviously DB10 being in that sort of spec, I always thought this the van grille was the way to go with it rather than the mesh grille. Perhaps maybe in a much wilder color that would look better.
Yes.
Yeah, like the launch color, which was I think green, lime green.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yes, that was seriously punchy.
Yes, which with the mesh grille would look better with, but because I was going for the classic look, I thought this would be better.
I think the classic look works brilliantly. The other mesh grille sort of echoes the Aston Martin Vulcan.
Yes.
Which not many people draw the link between the two,
No,
because there was never any launch imagery with the two cars parked next to one another, but that's really what Aston were going for. But with this traditional grille, the other thing you get is you get different contours on the bumper as well, so it does look slightly different overall from the front end, but yeah, it
makes
works
the car look a bit wider as well when it's coming up in the rear view mirror of another car. So.
Yes, I completely agree. And then down the side, you've got black detailing all the way through, and then you've gone for diamond turned wheels with the black finish as well.
That's right, yeah, because I think these are a newer option as of just 2 years ago. So,
agreed. You
know, to give it that nice sort of matching with the lightning silver and the lines of the car. So I thought, and also from a maintenance point of view, stop and go in cities, it's not a lot of brake dust to worry about because it's black.
For sure,
yeah.
That makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
And so overall for a Vantage and an Aston Martin, what attracted you to the brand?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, first of all, it was you guys who I've known for a good part of now 5 years, I think. Yeah. So, you know, obviously had a soft spot. I'd had some experience with the old Vantage as well, about 10 years ago. Didn't really like it in terms of how the transmission was. It was for a certain kind of customer.
Did you try this? Was it Sport Shift?
It's the Sport Shift.
Yeah.
It was single clutch.
Yes.
Which wasn't, you know, as pleasant to drive in the city because I do a lot of city driving as well, along with some Grand Tours. So I just and then the fact that, you know, the engine comes from AMG, which I've also owned for many years in the past, I thought, this is a really good package. So it's like having a handmade car with an engine that's brilliant.
Yes.
And with something that looks like a concept car.
Yeah.
You know, and that's basically was a win-win in my books.
I think Aston do the combination of sporty elegance brilliantly well, and the fact that it's got that sort of style but reserved approach in the way that it presents itself on the road. Yeah, I think that's a lovely balance.
Yeah, especially the front, I think, and the rear is a bit more flamboyant. and they've, I think that kind of shows that approach, because the front and the rear does have a slightly different look.
I agree, which is a good cue to spin the car around. So we'll make an adjustment on the turntable, and then let's take a look at the rear of the car.
Sure, absolutely.
So we spun the car around, and the Vantage reveals something that is perhaps a bit of a surprise in a UK car dealership. This was originally supplied from Canada.
That's right, yeah. It was Grand Touring Automobiles, Aston Martin Toronto. They supplied the car new to me, so yeah.
Brilliant. So that's home for you most of the year?
Yes, that's right. That's right, yeah.
And then what you do is you bring the car across into the UK and into Europe in general over summerish months.
That's right, yeah, yep. Summerish going into sometimes autumn, because obviously in the winter time you can't really drive cars like these in Canada because of the snow.
Yep.
So that's obviously quite a challenge, given ground clearance, salt, and all these kind of things.
So what's the process? Do you ship it? Do you fly it?
Yeah, depending on the on my schedule, either or, because there's sometimes more efficient ways of getting the car there where you need it, kind of thing.
Brilliant. And so that gives you access to a whole new network of roads to enjoy and trips you can make.
Absolutely.
So have you been able to get a road trip in yet?
Yeah, so I did get it to France, which was quite nice. I used to live in France as well many years ago, so I knew the roads quite well. It handled brilliantly on the autobahns in France, and especially on some of the cobblestone roads, could really sort of get an appreciation of the suspension that Aston has developed, and how comfortable the car is to go around. So
For a really sporty car, it's actually quite practical, isn't it? In as much as it's got a big boot, you can soften everything off when you just want to cruise. It doesn't always have to be at max attack, but when you're in the mood, it becomes a very different car.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think my only quibble is just the tyres, which we were speaking about earlier. So I think the Pirellis, whilst they're an excellent tyre, but I think maybe the Michelins, which I'm used to from my previous cars, so I think that's probably something I will do for my next trip.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And so, how many miles have you done in total?
So I think just a few thousand miles, just under 3,000 miles.
Okay, all right, yeah. So high quality miles then by the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yes. And then do you see yourself staying with the brand now that you've made the step across to Aston Martin?
Yeah, no, especially I'm really looking forward to obviously getting the original car in which this colour was introduced, the DBS. I think we spoke about that as well. So that's certainly a car that I'd like to have in my collection at some point. And I think the ownership experience has been quite good, considering it's coming up to a year. I had two particular issues that I could remember. One being obviously being away a lot, so obviously the car sitting and getting a battery boost, which was done very, very swiftly by Aston Martin roadside assistance. And then the other thing was I had a fuel vapor smell, which was quite strange. And someone from AMR came and obviously explained how to sort of fill up, etc., and what not to do next time to kind of avoid that. And of course, your dealership also looked at it right away. So yeah, I think overall, these are the kind of real things that matter to me as an owner of any supercar brand. That the manufacturer and the dealer network overall globally, because I travel a lot, obviously with my cars, is looking out for. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as a dealership, we're quite realistic that we sell beautiful, hand-built, ultra-low volume cars. So inevitably, you buy a Toyota Corolla, and it's probably more likely to be 100% reliable than buying Exotica at this end of the market. But the real key is how it's supported, what you do about it, and managing that element, and that's fine, and that kind of works for us, and we've dealt with the cars for many years and are used to it.
Absolutely, and I'm a mathematician by profession, so for me it's always comes down to how the numbers, right? So we all know that obviously Toyota Corollas, there's so many produced ever so often. But when you're buying a supercar or when you're buying a luxury car, exotic car, you know, how are you being treated?
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
Yes.
Whether you're in Canada or you're in the UK or you're in Dubai, I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And you know, because ultimately that's your ownership experience, and that's what will bring you back to the brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of a Canadian spec car,
Yep.
there are a few subtle variations. One of the interesting ones is the exhaust.
Yes.
So European requirements now are for GPF filters, and this will not have GPFs.
No, it won't. Yeah.
So on that basis, would you mind if we had a bit of a listen?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to compliment you on your number plate. This is very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of goes with the theme of the car.
It does.
You know, with the spec especially coming from the movie Spectre. Right?
Yes.
So yeah, and then that's just my initials. So I tried to make a bid for that and got the plate. So, yeah.
And I have to ask, in Canada, do you only need one number plate?
Sorry?
In Canada, do you only need one number plate?
Yes, in certain places you do. In certain places you have to have both. So.
Right, win. It looks fantastic at the front as well. So that's superb.
Yeah,
and so have you been able to get involved with Aston life in general? Because there's a great Aston Martin community that I've always found super welcoming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Aston Martin's Owners Club. Yeah, I've done some activities with Area 00 because that's Central London,
Yeah.
which is where I'm based when I'm here. So, yeah, they've been very helpful. You know, Jason and the guys. They've been really welcoming, and looking forward to doing a trip with them as well later this year. So they do a lot of trips around Europe. So it'd be a good opportunity to get the cars together.
Yes, I understand they're planning a colossal road trip this year.
Yes.
Which sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, yes. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll try and make that one. And I think it's just the, hearing from other owners as well, their experiences, etc., is actually kind of cool as well. Of course, there's a certain age segment of most Aston owners, but there's also younger guys as well in there. So which is nice to sort of interact with them.
I agree. I think it's always a lovely group of people at Aston Martin Owners Club, and also it's a really interesting spread of cars. You know, everything from some of the heritage cars, and there's plenty of new cars represented as well in terms of ownership. So you've got the whole spectrum.
Absolutely. I met with Steve Waddingham as well at one of your Cars and Coffee meets, which was in Gaydon. And he came to one of the AMOC events and just spoke about some of the heritage cars. And there was this one particular car that he spoke about, which was from during the war's time, and how it was really interesting to sort of follow that owner, and from the logbook they were able to tell what the owner was doing, etc. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of history there, and obviously quite informational as well for someone like myself who's coming into the brand. So.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know who Steve Waddingham is, he's Aston Martin's historian and absolute legend of a man. So hello Steve if you're watching, and he's featured elsewhere on this channel too. Okay, that wraps us up for today. Thank you once again, Samir, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you for having me here.